Alrighty, I'm going to help you through the first couple of problems on here, and this is 1.1 day 3, but we're going to just make this into 1.1 day 2. So if you could just want to look at that. There's no video for lessons because this is still all referring back to y equals mx plus b linear kind of stuff. Keep in mind what you already know about that and have known for years, which is that this is our y-intercept. In terms of word problems or applications, that's usually like your start value. What do you start at when your x is 0? And then this is going to be your slope. Slope is always a rate, and because slope is a rate, a lot of times you'll see the word per. It's something per hour, something per mile, something per person. So kind of keep that in mind as you read the problems. You're looking for which value is going to turn into my m, which value is going to turn into my b, so that I can do what it says, which is write a linear equation to model the situation. So I'm going to expand this so you can see it a little, and then I'll deal with the graphing in a bit. So write a linear equation to model the situation. To rent a tour bus for the day, it costs a flat rate of 200. So in my mind, that 200 is going to be my b value. That's what it costs, flat start rate. Plus 20, there's the key word, per person. So my slope is going to be $20 per person. So that's going to go in as a 20, and it's dollars per person. Okay. So when I go to graph this function, I am going to have to think about the two different aspects. I need to have a starting value, a b value. Oh, I didn't even write the equation. So it's going to be y equals 20x plus 200, keeping in mind that y is then representing the total cost in dollars, and x is going to be representing, because it says per person, so it's going to equal the number of people. So as you add people to the bus tour, you are adding costs. So this is what this entire set of questions is going to be about. Okay, so if I go to graph that, keep in mind that at 0, when x is 0, my y-intercept is going to be 200. So if I count by 20s, let's say, so this is going to be by 20s. I'm going to be at 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 20, 40, 60, 80, 200. And I'm going to start there. 20, 40, 60, 80, 300, and so on. And this is going to be my cost. Then across the bottom is going to be the number of people. And so, I'd probably go and count, like spread this out a little so I can see better. Maybe this is going to be 1 additional 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. So this is going to equal the number of people that you are putting on the bus. So when there are 0 people, it costs $200. For each person, it goes up 20. So if that's one person, it goes up 20. Because keep in mind, that's our slope. So we're going up 20 over 1, up 20 over 1, and so on. So then at 3 people, it will go up 20 more. And so ultimately, my graph is going to be starting at 200 and increasing at a rate of up 20 over 1. And this one, the scale is different. So like this side, I'm counting by 20s. On the bottom, I'm counting by 1s. And so it looks, a lot less slanted than you would think up 20 over 1 would look. All right, let's go back over here. It says find the total cost for 8 people. So since x is representing the people, I'm going to put an 8 in for x, and I'll have y equals 20 times 8 plus 200. And so that's just like knowing what your variables represent, and that will come out to be $360. And again, that's knowing that my variable y represents cost. Now, number 4 asks something a little bit different. There's not very much room here, so I'm going to have to cram this in or maybe go to a different part of the paper. It says how many people. So that's an x thing. It's asking us for x. Would the cost be 620? So I'd be starting with 620 and set that equal to my 20x plus 200. So if I take away the 200, I'll be at 420 equals 20x. And so that's going to turn out to be 21 people. So you have to just pay attention to whether they're giving you the x and asking for the y. Oops, this one says, what would the cost per person be? So I had 360 total, but that was for 8 people. So if you divide that, you end up with $45 per person. So that's really crowded in there. I apologize. Okay, so this one is asking me, what is the slope of the line? Well, we kind of talked about that already. So this question we've already discussed. The slope itself is 20. What does it mean? Slope always means the change in whatever your y is per whatever your x is. So for us, that's going to mean the increase in cost. So it's a cost increase per, and then whatever our x is, which is people. So it's going to be the cost increase per person. That's what it represents or means. Alrighty, what is the y-intercept or b value? Good thing I have a ton of room here. The y-intercept or b value is going to be 200. What does it represent? Well, like I talked about up here, your b value is your start value when x is 0. So for us, x equaling 0 would mean that is the cost when the number of people equals 0. So it's just how much you have to pay for the tour bus, even if nobody goes on it. And so that's always sort of a weird situation. But in this case, that's what that represents is, hey, you'd have to pay $200 just to rent the tour bus. Then you add $20 per person. Okay, so all of the problems on this page are going to play out to some degree in the same manner. You're going to have to find the equation based on the information given. Now, this one is not giving us the information in the same way. It says the total cost, and I'm going to do my work down here so I'll have some more room. The total cost of the plumber is $100 for 1 hour. So $160 for 2 and $220 for 3. So they're actually giving us some values. Now keep in mind that you want the y to be the dependent variable. And since the cost depends on how much time it is, this money is going to be your y and the x is going to represent the time. So for us, y is going to be representing the cost of the plumber. And the x is going to be representing the number of hours that that plumber worked. So what's happening here is you would say, okay, at 1 hour, it cost $100. Up here, at 2 hours of work, it cost $160. And with 3 hours of work, it cost $220. And so we're trying to kind of sort out what is the rate per hour. And so we're going to have to kind of think back and say, how is the change in y over the change in x? What is that representing for slope? And you could use any of these points. I could use either of these first 2 points. So I could take one, because remember, we're doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'd be looking at 160 minus 100 over 2 minus 1. Or I could have done 220 minus 60. 160 over 3 minus 2. Either way, this is going to turn out to be 60 over 2, which is going, or 60 over 1, because math is hard for me apparently. 60 over 1, and then that's going to make my slope 60. Okay, keeping in mind, when it says what is the slope of the line, we just found that the slope of the line is 60, and since it always means y per x, for us that's going to be y, which is the cost, per x, which is going to be the hour. So it's representing the cost per hour, which is 60. So if we're writing our equation, we know that's going to be our slope, y equals 60x. And then we have to figure out how much does it cost for without even having any work. Because at 1 hour, there was $100 charge and it's $60 per hour. So that doesn't really make sense. So what I have to do is figure out what is it when x is 0? So if I know, for example, I know that for 1 hour I'm going to be paying $100 and 60 of it is my hourly rate, that's going to let me know that, hey, if I went backwards to 0, since here I was adding 60 to get to here, adding 60 to get to here, then I'd take away 60 to work backwards. And so if I don't even pay for any work, it's just $40 for the plumber to show up. So I kind of think backwards. Here I was adding 60. Here I had to add 60. And so if you're going to go backwards, you would have to take away 60 from that 100 and say, okay, that means that my B value is going to be $40 just kind of to show up. So here where it says, what is the y-intercept? It's going to be that 40. And what it represents is the cost basically to show up. So no work done yet. No hours of work have been done. So then I can go back up here and I can put that 40 into my equation. So you do have to kind of understand what all the different parts mean and so on. I personally think it's easiest to go and do kind of 1, 4, and 5 all at the same time and think about what's the M, what's the B, what does it mean? And then I can go ahead and graph and answer the questions. So let's go ahead and answer the question and then I'll deal with the graph last. What is the cost? So they're asking me about Y for a 5-hour job. So they're giving me the X. So in this scenario, I would take my equation Y equals 60. I'd plug in a 5 because it asked for 5 hours plus 40. And so when I crunch that through my brain or my calculator, the cost for a 5-hour job is going to come out to be $340. And with my messy writing, that doesn't all fit without going where the graph needs to be. Alrighty, so then let's go ahead and graph it. So this one is going to start at 40 and go up by 60. So I probably would count by 20s again. So this is going to be my cost. This is going to be my hours. So I'm going to start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. I can't see those lines very well, so I'm just not even going to pretend I can. And then up the side, I'd go 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 20, 40, 60, 80, 200, and that's representing my dollars. So when it comes time now to graph it, at 0, I'm at 40, and then for each one, it goes up 60. Or I can even use the term values that I had over here in my points. I know that 1 is at 100. I know that 2 was at 160, so 20, 40, 60. And 3 was up to 220, so that's going to be a little bit above here. So after I get a few points going, then I can draw my line in there and call it good. Because it's starting at 40, because that's the start value, and it's going up 60 over 1, up 60 over 1, up 60 over 1, and so on. So that's just to kind of put, hopefully, some idea of how to manage these problems. You're always looking for what does the X mean, what does the Y mean, which thing is the rate. And so they'll either give you that information in this format that we saw, or they might give you a few different points and you can find the slope using the formula and find the y-intercept kind of working backwards to it. And then once you have your y equals mx plus b, you can graph it, you can plug numbers in and just pay attention to whether they're giving you the x or the y value to plug in. So hopefully that helps you. I want you to keep working on, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 more. So work your way through those, and I would highly encourage you to work with Math Buddies because life is better with buddies. Bye, guys.